front of a huge crowd of thousands in the aftermath of the Second World War, a group of women were led out to a massive set of gallows which had been created on a hill in the city of Gdansk. The people who flocked there that day were to see the execution of some of the brutal SS guards who had worked inside the local concentration camp, which was known as Stutthof. But one thing of note was the age of some of the condemned women. These were women in their early 20s who had committed terrible and barbaric crimes during the Second World War, and one of them was a 24-year-old, Jenny Wanda Barkmann. She became known as the beautiful spectre for her crimes during the deadliest conflict in human history, and she was a brute who went down a slippery path of execution, torture, and brutality. Jenny Wanda Barkmann was born in the May of 1922 inside of the city of Hamburg, and she had a rather decent upbringing. The family did not have the most money, as her father was a dock worker and her mother worked in different houses, but Jenny had big dreams of becoming an actress in the growing film industry, but there were no signs of the beast she would later become. She also embarked on a career being a fashion model at one point, and was known for being rather good-looking at times. But when the Second World War broke out, she continued to pursue a career in modelling, and she got involved in some photo shoots for German magazines and for advertisers. However, in 1944, she began her career which would later send her into the concentration camps, and then to her execution years later. She quit her modelling career, having seen an advertisement which was issued inside of many occupied towns and cities by the SS. This was for women to go and work inside of the concentration camps, as because of a shortage of men, they were needed to help keep prisoners in check. At this time in the war, many men were sent from the camps to the front lines, so a number of local women were recruited to work inside of the camps. They were promised good pay and career progression, and this is what may have attracted Jenny to the work in the industry. But after an interview when she was just 21 years old, she was then sent to a camp to train how to become a guard. She was sent to Stutthof concentration camp, which was considered a rather tough and brutal camp, and it was found in Gdansk, and there were around 110,000 prisoners who passed through the gates during the conflict, and around 65,000 who died within the barbed wire fences. Those who worked at the camp were SS guards, and the first woman guards arrived at the camp in 1942, and around 300 women served at Stutthof during the war. Many inmates were sent from different camps and nations, with huge deportations of people sent there from Auschwitz. But thousands of inmates died from disease and starvation, with particular epidemics of typhus rampaging around the prisoner population, and the people who were said to have not been fit enough to work were then sent to the gas chambers. There was also a lot of execution carried out in the camp, as during roll calls, prisoners who had infringed on the strict rules were executed on gallows in front of thousands of people, and there was a real reign of terror established. The prisoners were also injected with phenol, and they were also drowned in the mud by the guards, and it was a camp which was truly filled with horror and barbarism. However, Jenny Wanda Barkmann, when she got to Stutthof, exhibited brutality and her dark side. She was known for being a sadist and a beast, and she battered prisoners to death, and she was also known for selecting prisoners to be sent to the gas chambers. It seemed by witnesses' accounts that Barkmann enjoyed torturing prisoners in different ways, and her behaviour even appalled and shocked other guards. One of them even resigned because of the actions of Barkmann and other women. She was known as Mad Jenny, and also the Beautiful Spectre, and she was, during her reign of terror, sending many women and others to their deaths, and she was responsible for battering some to death with her own hands. But what was also incredibly cruel is that she sent mere children to their deaths. This was a woman in her early 20s, playing God with people's lives. But at the end of the Second World War, as it came around, with the German army being pushed back on all fronts, Jenny Wanda Barkmann tried to make a run for it. But the Soviet Red Army were the ones who liberated Stutthof concentration camp. But Jenny was nowhere to be seen, as she had made a run for it. She did escape capture briefly, but she was then seized as she was spotted aboard a train which was leaving Gdansk station. Someone had helped her hide out in the local area, and descriptions of her had even been sent around Europe to keep an eye out for her. When she was interrogated, she claimed that she treated the prisoners with compassion and kindness. However, she also said that she helped those who were starving as she brought them food and protection. However, this was clearly not the case. There were many witnesses who had told their stories already. But Jenny Barkmann's beauty captivated even some of her prison guards as they began to sympathise with her, and some accepted her lies as truth. Jenny Barkmann tried to get easier treatment in prison and even her release. However, when guards saw images of what had happened at Stutthof, their opinions changed of her. Because of her crimes, Jenny Barkmann was taken to the Stutthof trials, and at this dozens of prisoners came forward about what she had done, and they gave evidence including eyewitness testimonies about her crimes. She even tried to make out that she was insane and that she was not fit to stand trial, with her defence lawyer saying Miss Barkmann did not have the mental capacity to make good decisions. But inside the courtroom this was not accepted. She spent the majority of her trial flirting with the guards based in the room, and she seemed more concerned about her hair than either the charges that were brought before her, and also the prisoners whom she had treated awfully. When witnesses told of the horrors of the camp, she laughed, and at the end of her trial she was sentenced to death. She seemed emotionless when this was read out, and her final statement to the court said, "Life is really a great pleasure, and pleasure does not last long." It was on the 4th of June 1946 in the morning, in front of that huge crowd on the hill in Gdansk, that Jenny Wanda Barkmann arrived for her execution. She was not the only one. There were 10 others who had been condemned during the trials, and they were to be executed alongside her. But Jenny Wanda Barkmann went first. She was brought out in front of the crowd and was then hoisted up on the back of a van or truck. An executioner seized her and held her, and other officials then told the crowd what she had done inside of Stutthof, and the crowd hurled abuse at the young 24-year-old woman while she was stood under the gallows. The noose was then secured around her neck, and when checks were made, the van drove off, and Jenny Barkmann was left hanging by her neck on the gallows, and she twitched for some time before she then stopped moving. Jenny Wanda Barkmann is remembered as the beautiful spectre, but what shocked many was the fact she was just 24 when she went to her execution for the crimes she committed inside a Stutthof concentration camp. The girl who dreamed of being a model or an actress became a sadistic brute who is remembered in history for taking smiles rather than leaving them on faces. She became known for her horrific brutality and barbarism, and she carried out many executions herself and also sent thousands to their deaths. She was just one of many female concentration camp guards in their 20s who would be executed following the war for their crimes. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.